Okay, now we are looking at different crops as part of the agriculture chapter. We'll start with the world of rice, the world of paddy, which is the staple food crop of India. And I hope many of you are familiar with how paddy is grown. This is how a typical paddy field looks like. This is how the paddy crop, the saplings are put in the wet soil. Okay, and it's a very labor intensive crop, just like cotton is. So this is how a paddy field looks like, and I would strongly urge each one of you, at any time if you get the opportunity, please go anywhere on the outskirts of your city, and I'm sure you would be able to find a paddy field. Get into the field, get your hands and feet dirty. Okay, now the world of rice, and this one, let me warn you, has a lot of detail to remember. Rice in particular, rice to an extent, even sugarcane and cotton and tea. Now you would need to remember a lot of details. So Ismay, the way to do it, of course, understand from here, look at the notes, keep your book. Of course, the book we have taken, the notes are largely from Morning Star, plus my own research. Wherever there is a thing about, whether it's number one, number two, I've also tried to cross check it with different independent agencies like the Food and Agricultural Organization website, right? Or the Cotton Corporation of India website. And Frank Brothers also evergreen. So it has from multiple sources, the notes are there. So if you are looking at the notes, you don't really need to look at any book. Subsequently, what is more important as far as the agriculture chapter is concerned is that you make your own short notes, especially when it comes to the rainfall part, the temperature part, the kind of soil required. So agar aap uske tables bana denge, soil, cotton needs this kind of soil, rice needs this kind of soil, wheat needs this kind of soil, right? Groundnut needs this kind of soil. So if you're able to make it and then kind of try to remember it, it'll make it easier, right? Or if you can think of any other method. So if you're able to do those kind of tables according to what works for you. For some people, it may work like, soil, and you make different arrows in different directions. So according to what it works for you, you need to make those kind of small tables and use that as the short notes before the examination, right? That's how agriculture chapter is slightly different from the other chapters like transport or waste management, in the sense that yahan par retain karne ke liye kafi kuch rahega. Okay, so just be a little careful about that. So what are the different facts that you need to know? It feeds more than half our population, which is rice eating population. It is grown on 44 million hectares. This is the latest 2020 statistic. Okay. 1/3 of the production of food grain in India is that of paddy. Okay. It is the second largest producer of rice after China. Okay. So that is another important statistic that you need to know. It is grown more in South India and the northeastern part of India. It needs an annual rainfall of about 150 centimeters, right? It is a tropical crop. The mean temperature should be about 24 degrees centigrade. It's a kharif crop in northern part of India, but it's a perennial crop in South India, in the sense that it is grown both as a kharif crop as well as a rabi crop in different parts of South India. So this is an important distinction जो आपको याद रखना पड़ेगा as far as paddy is concerned. Okay, I hope it is clear. But of course, in South India, if it is being grown in as a rabi crop, it should ensure that it needs irrigation, because it is during the kharif season that you generally get the monsoon, right? So apart from Tamil Nadu, the rest of the states should take care of their irrigation before they get into paddy, because paddy, just like sugarcane, is a water intensive crop, just like I showed you the photograph a while ago. Now, what is the kind of climate that you need? It grows best in warm and humid areas, right? It needs a lot of sunshine, but it also needs a lot of water. This is the temperature range that we are talking about. Now, what is the temperature range? That 16 to 20 degrees centigrade is the mean temperature during flowering and fertilization, and 18 to 32 degrees centigrade when it is at the ripening stage. So that is the time temperature bands that you need to be aware of, right? The rainfall that we have already mentioned, it's an irrigated crop. which is why you need a lot of water, which is why deltas, floodplains, river valleys, etc. are ideal for the growth of paddy. Now here there is something very interesting, is that there is something very unique about paddy, that paddy can be grown at any kind of level, which is why, and this is an important question which could be asked, has the ability to grow on different altitudes, which is why if there is a students from Kerala would be aware, there is a place called Kuttanad, right, in towards central southern part of Kerala, which is known as the rice bowl of Kerala. Now that area is below sea level. At the same time, if you go to Kashmir, you also have paddy growing there at a height of 2000 meters, right? So you have paddy as an all altitude kind of crop, and that's what makes it rather unique. Now, what are the two varieties of rice that we are talking about? One is upland rice and one is lowland rice. Now, upland rice essentially, as the name signifies, this grows in the hilly areas. Pahadon mein, especially in the northeastern part, is where the upland rice is grown. It is sown in the months of March, April and harvested by September, October, entirely depending on rain-fed conditions. Obviously, if it is on the mountains, highly unlikely to get any kind of irrigation facilities, and the entire crop is used by the local population, right? The second variety is the lowland rice, which is in the low-lying areas, in the plain areas. It is sown in June and harvested in October month. Okay, and it needs plenty of water, both irrigation as well as rainfall, and it is also used locally and also sold in the open market. Now let's look at this soil. Deep fertile clayey kind of soil, loamy soil. Loamy, as I have explained earlier, it is a mixture of sand, silt and clay, and alluvial soil which is in the Gangetic plains. The water, and this is important, this can also come as a 1 mark kind of a question. The water which is there on the soil, right, on which the paddy is transplanted, that water actually protects the plant from any kind of pests from coming there. Pani mein rahega, so the pests won't be able to come, and it also needs a lot of manure and fertilizers in order to produce high yield. So paddy is a crop in which you need to make a lot of investment, but also if you get a good crop, it also fetches a good price. Okay, let's now look at the methods of cultivation. One is the dry method in the rain-fed kind of areas, right? Now, in the rain-fed areas where there is no access to agriculture, it is sown in heavy rainfall kind of areas where they know that there will be heavy rainfall to take care of the needs of that particular paddy crop, right? Then there is the puddled method in areas with assured water supply. If you've seen in some of the movies, especially when there is, fights over water, etc., mostly you will see it is talking about paddy fields, right? Especially in Telugu and Tamil movies, you will have quite a bit of it. So in areas with assured water supply, the land is plowed and it is filled with about 3 to 5 centimeters of standing water, और उसमें paddy को transplant किया जाता है. Okay. Please look at photographs, please look at documentaries so that you get a better idea about how paddy is transplanted, especially if you are looking at doing this chapter. Sowing, the broadcast method, the drilling method and the dibbling method. What's the difference? The broadcast method is the scattering of seeds like this. You would have seen this again in movies or in any kind of documentaries, right? The soil is not very fertile and there is less labor available, so there will be one person, farmer and his wife. So together they do this, and it is done before the onset of monsoon. So it's not very scientific, like, at different places the seeds may fall and from there it will kind of sprout. So it's not like a very organized way of planting. Organized way of planting, it requires a lot of manual labor. The farmer may or may not be able to afford hiring that kind of labor unless he or she is a rich farmer, right? The second one is the drilling method, which is used largely in peninsular India, where seeds are sown systematically using a drill which is made of bamboo. So you put it there and the seeds are sown at regular kind of interval. There is a gap between each seed. The plus point of the drilling method is that the wastage is minimal. There is a high rate of germination of seeds, but it's also a very time consuming task, obviously, right? The dibbling method is an kind of an instrument. Okay, dibble is an instrument where you make holes in the soil and then the seed is put by hand. Again, a very labor intensive and a time consuming task. So you can understand the broadcast method is the easiest, but obviously it does not ensure a proper kind of coverage of the entire field and proper germination. What is used more commonly is the transplanting method, and there is also something called the Japanese method. These are the two which are more popular, especially the transplanting method. Now the transplanting method is the most common method. First, the seedlings, what they do is that they grow the seedlings in a nursery, and after they have grown to about 25 to 30 centimeters in height, after about 4 to 5 weeks, then they are brought to the field where they need to be planted, transplanted, and that's where it is planted at regular intervals. जिसका photograph मैंने दिखाया शुरू में. You have it being transplanted. Let me show you the photograph again so that you get an idea. You see the women these are the transplants which have been brought from the nursery. So they are plucking it up and putting it at regular intervals. That's how it is done as far as the transplanting method is concerned. And the advantage with this is that the women, the labor, are able to see, okay, which are the healthy kind of saplings, and they kind of transplant only those ones, and it gives good yield. It leads to less wastage. There is also a Japanese method which was introduced in 1953, and it's an improved method of transplantation, and it's pretty popular in many countries. So high yielding varieties of Japonica, okay, seeds are used, and rows of plants are fixed at a distance of about 25 centimeters. The distance between each plant is about 15 centimeters. So it helps the farmer to remove weeds. Uske beech mein koi bhi weed aaye, he can remove it. So it kind of allows for more systematic way of growing paddy in the field. And Japonica seeds give very high yield. Manure is also used. Let me show you a couple of photographs. Now this is how it is grown. You see the women, they have all this, so they will keep removing it and putting it one by one in a row. You see, it's a straight line in which all these paddy saplings have been transplanted. So these women have to stand in this kind of a posture for hours at end, right? So in that sense, it's really back-breaking. It's a very labor-intensive and tiresome kind of work. Now, this is a machine which also is pretty popular in many parts of India. This is a photograph which I had got from Nizamabad. This guy is Pocharam Srinivas Reddy. He is now the Speaker of the Telangana Assembly. He was at that time the Agriculture Minister. She is Kavita. She is the daughter of the Chief Minister of Telangana, Chandrasekhar Rao, right? So this photograph is from Nizamabad. So this kind of a machine was bought, and you see automatically it kind of keeps planting. Though I don't understand why so many of them have to climb onto this machine. It was a PR exercise. It's a photograph from that which I had it in my gallery. So you see all these ones get transplanted automatically. So this kind of manual labor is not required. That money they have spent on this machine. This is also very popular in many other countries, South Asian countries of India. Okay, so this gives you an idea about how paddy is planted, transplanted in India and abroad. Now, after this, let's come to the harvesting part. This is a photograph which is to do with the harvesting. Now, harvesting the field is, what they do is they drain out the water. जो 3 से 5 सेंटीमीटर का water, standing water था, the water is drained out, the field is dried. Okay. After that, you have the sickle. This photograph में वो sickle नहीं दिख रहा है. The sickle, which is a curved knife, you kind of cut the sickle, but you don't cut it right from the bottom. You cut it from a particular height where she is holding it. So she will cut it from somewhere here. She will cut it from the sickle about 60 centimeter below the grain to help in threshing. And the stalks are dried in the sun to reduce the moisture content. Why moisture? Because they have been in water for all these many weeks. And again, this is also a very labor intensive kind of process because so many people are employed in the harvesting process. Then you have the process of threshing, right? The threshing is this kind. This is the photograph which shows the process of threshing. So once it is all cut, right? The second step, they are bundled together and then they are beaten against a wooden kind of a plank, or this could be a coconut tree's bark or something. They are beaten against it. So what happens is that when they are beating against it, the grain, जो दाना है, that gets separated and that gets accumulated out here, right? So the grains get separated from the rest of the plant, right? And this is done again in the field itself. All this is not sent to the mills. This is the third part. This is the process of winnowing. W-I-N-N-O-W-I-N-G. This is the process of winnowing, where what they do is that once all this is collected, then they start kind of putting it like this. You would have again seen it in movies, or if you are familiar with the rural area, it will be like this. So when the wind blows, the chilka hai, which is a lighter part, will get blown away, whereas the grain, which is the heavier part, will fall out here. So this, what is falling on the straight because of the weight, is the grain, whereas the rest of the shaft gets separated from the rest of the grain, so that kind of gets blown off. So this is a way. Sometimes some kind of a mesh is also used, you know, where you put it on a mesh and the mesh will collect the grain and the rest of the thing will be waste. So different ways are used. So this is a very common way which you find in rural India, where winnowing is used in order to separate the grain from the chaff. There is also the process of milling, where the yellow husk is removed from the grain and they use that to use a wooden mortar to beat it. And this also, what happens is that as a result of which a lot of the rice gets broken, and that is known as bad quality rice. You know, so sometimes what they do is, when government sell rice at 1 rupee a kg, 2 rupees a kg, most of the rice that is sold as part of that package is essentially broken rice, right? So once you send it to the mills, the rice is also polished. Now polished rice is considered good looking, but it also lacks in vitamins, right? Because of too much of rubbing. Then you also have the parboiled rice, which is used for making idlis, etc., idli dosa, which has been partially boiled in the husk time. When it is covered by the husk, when it is boiled, right? Not here. When it is boiled, that's known as parboiled rice. But anyway, that's just a technicality. Now, I hope with the help of these photographs, all that is clear. You have a better idea about how paddy is grown. Now, this is of course a typical paddy field. Now, as far as the distribution part of it is concerned, India is the second largest producer of rice. Bengal, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu are the main states which produce paddy in the country. Rice occupies 3/4 of Bengal's cultivated area. So Bengal is a major rice producing state of India. The largest area under paddy cultivation is in Uttar Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh delta areas, especially the areas, the districts around Krishna River, which is Krishna district and Guntur district, and around Godavari district, that is East Godavari and West Godavari. These 4 districts are where paddy is grown, because you have the natural irrigation as a result of the flow of both river Krishna and river Godavari. Okay, so that helps in the irrigation, and that's why you find a lot of paddy fields in both around Krishna district, the 2 districts around Krishna river and the 2 districts around the Godavari river. In Punjab, 97% of the rice area, paddy cultivated area, is irrigated. So in that sense, it's a huge plus point. So with that, we come to the end of rice, which is definitely one of the most complicated, a lot to remember, understand, but I hope with the help of photographs, we have been able to make you understand a little more. Please look at documentaries or other photographs so that you get a very visual sense of how rice is essentially grown in the country, right? So thank you very much for watching. Please do go and have a look at the notes for more clarity. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, after rice, now let's look at the second most important crop in the country, and that is the crop of wheat, right? This beautiful photograph of this farmer, Sikh farmer, from in his wheat field. Now, what are the factoids about wheat? Wheat is the second most important crop in India after paddy. It is 14% of the total cropped area. 12% of the total wheat production in the world is done in India. India is the second largest producer of wheat after China. Okay, so please remember these basic factoids. Let's look at the climatic conditions. It grows best in cool and moist climate, which is why wheat is grown more in the North Indian states than in the other parts of the country. It ripens in warm and dry weather. It is sown in October and November, and it is a rabi crop. Okay, so please remember these factoids. What's the kind of rainfall it needs? 80 centimeter of annual rainfall is required. The temperature required is about 10 to 15 degrees. So, cold kind of weather, and about 20 to 25 degrees during harvest, because harvest takes place will be in sometime in the month of March, April. What does not work for wheat is excess moisture, excess rainfall, or high heat are bad for the wheat crop. So if you get a question, you should be able to remember this three parts, right? Even if it's a 2-mark question, please mention all the 3 points which are bad for the wheat crop, right? These are the kind of questions you could get. Then what is the kind of soil that we are talking about? Well-drained loams and clayey soils, or the alluvial soils of the Ganges, or the black cotton soil of the peninsula, right? So excess moisture is bad because that can retard the wheat plant growth, right? There is also the red soil of the Nilgiris, right? Which is also used to grow another variety of wheat. The macaroni wheat is what is grown in the black soil of the peninsular part of the country, whereas the common bread wheat is what is grown in the northern part of the country or in the alluvial soil of the Ganges. Now let's look at how the sowing, harvesting and distribution takes place. Now it's a compact seed bed. That's what is required as far as sowing of wheat is concerned, right? And that helps in good quality germination, ताकि germination की quality अच्छी रहे, okay? And the fields are plowed and pulverized several times, so that the field bed is a rather compact and a soft kind of a bed, and it pressed many times before the sowing takes place of wheat. And again, it is done through drilling or the broadcast method, and definitely it needs irrigation, right? The germination of seeds takes place in 3 to 4 days, and low temperature in the growing season, the rabi crop, and it needs irrigation while it is growing. The ripening takes place in March and the harvest takes place in April, right? Again, sickle is used or machines are used quite a lot. Then the process of threshing is done, and threshing is done in rural areas if they don't have machines by using bullocks to kind of get onto the crop, right? In order to separate the grain from the husk, right? Of course, if you have machines, it saves on time. It does not make it, you don't have to depend on bullocks to do it. 14% of the total cropped area in the country, and UP, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan and MP, right? 1 minute. Yeah. Okay. So that's as far as the wheat is concerned. I hope this is clear. Rice and wheat, very important components that you need to focus on as far as the agriculture chapter is concerned. Thank you very much for watching. Okay, as part of the agriculture chapter, as I have said in earlier videos, one of the things that you need to bear in mind is that there is a lot to retain and recall. And how do you do that? Let me say it once again. You need to make your own subtables. I have made it in a particular way as part of these videos, explanation videos. I've also put it in the notes. But when you are looking at the notes after having listened to the videos, make sure that you make your own subtables of, say, rainfall for groundnut, rainfall for pulses, what are the climatic conditions needed for pulses, and how is it different from that of rice or wheat or sugarcane and tea. So if you keep making these comparisons, trust me, many students keep asking that we have studied it twice, we are not able to remember. You will not be able to remember. Unless you have a robo-like mind, you will not be able to remember. We are not computers. We will need to feed it again and again and again and again and again, and only then we'll be able to retain that. So agriculture chapter that way becomes one of the most tough chapters, especially if you have a weak memory. So choose your chapters carefully. Okay, it's interesting and easy for someone who is good, naturally good in biology, especially the botany part of it. Okay, so I leave the choice entirely to you whether you want to do agriculture or not want to do agriculture. Okay, now in this video we are going to look at the world of pulses. Now pulses, which is dal as we know, is obviously an important part of the Indian diet. They are leguminous plants with high nitrate content. Okay, they help restore the soil fertility. So see, it's an important part of the Indian diet. I mean, what do we do without dal, right? Dal is there in every part of the diet, especially for vegetarians. They provide vegetable protein and therefore they are highly nutritive. Now you also need to know the definition of pulses, which could also come as a 1 or 2 mark questions. So what are the keywords? The keywords are leguminous plants. That's one of the keywords as far as pulses are concerned. They are leguminous plants with a high nitrate content, another keyword, and they help to restore soil fertility, and hence they are grown in the course of crop rotation. That is, they help in crop rotation because they help in restoring soil fertility. जो जमीन की जो fertility है उसको restore करने में जो सहायता करते हैं, इसकी वजह से they are used for crop rotation. That is, between two crops they grow also pulses so that the soil fertility is restored, and they are also useful in the production of oil. So they are important part of the Indian vegetarian diet. They are highly nutritive. They help in crop rotation because they are useful. They are used for crop rotation because they help restore the fertility of soil. So these 5 points that I've written out here, also mentioned in the notes, extremely important. Please make sure that you do not miss out on any of the keywords that are used out here. Okay, this one. Let's move on to the next one. Now, what are the different kinds of pulses that we obviously speak about? Now, before we get into all this Bengal gram, arhar, tur dal, etc., pulses are often rotated with other crops that I just spoke about. If you get it as a question, so what I've done is to write it as a question and answer for you so that it's easy for you to remember the keywords. So pulses are leguminous crops basically which have seeds in pods, right, belonging to the pea family. They have root nodules that contain symbiotic bacteria to fix nitrogen. They thereby help in increasing the fertility of the soil, and therefore they are rotated with other crops to maintain or restore the fertility of soil. So that's how you should write an answer which would get you 1 mark or 2 mark, jitne bhi marks ka question hoga. Now, what are the important pulses that are grown and consumed in India? One, of course, is the Bengal gram, the chana dal. There is the arhar or tur dal, which we talk about. There is the urad dal, right, which is used for making idlis, etc. There is the moong ki dal, and then there is the masoor ki dal, apart from which you also have peas, that is matar, horse gram, and kesari and matki. These are the different kinds of grams which are used, produced, and consumed in India. Okay, horse gram is also known as kulthi. Okay, masoor is the lentil. Matar, peas, so I have already spoken about. Urad is the black gram. Now, what are the climatic conditions in which pulses are grown? Now, you need moderate rainfall of about 50 to 75 centimeter of rainfall. ये सब आपको टेबल बना के याद रखना पड़ेगा. I am saying if there is any chapter जहाँ पे काफी, I wouldn't use the word रट्टा, but जहाँ पर काफी सारा याद करने के लिए है, that is in the agriculture chapters. Okay, so moderate rainfall of 50 to 75 centimeters and 20 to 25 degrees of temperature, right? It is both a kharif as well as a rabi crop because it's used as part of the crop rotation, and it is useful to have dry, light soil in order to grow these pulses. So these are the facts about the pulses. Ye kya hai? This is rajma. Now, the one question that comes is whether are pulses a kharif crop or a rabi crop. Now, they are both a kharif and rabi crop, though रबी क्रॉप में जो पल्सेस उगाए जाते हैं, that is 60% of the total production. That means खरीफ में कम और रबी में ज्यादा उगाए जाते हैं. Bengal gram, for instance, is grown as a rabi crop. That is, chana dal is grown as a rabi crop in areas which receive 10 centimeter of rainfall during winter. It is also sown alongside wheat. गेहूं के साथ भी इसको उगाया जाता है. It is grown both in North India as well as in the central part of India, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. Kesari and Masoor dal are another pulses which are grown as rabi crops in North India. Tur dal, urad dal, moong dal, they are more grown as kharif crops. Okay, so it depends on the temperature. It depends on where the farmer may want to use it as part of the crop rotation. Okay, so that's how the farmers individually decide, but largely these are the broad parameters under which these different kinds of pulses are grown. Now, the other important aspect is what are the challenges faced by the cultivators of pulses. Okay, what are the challenges? Now, due to lack of high yield variety of pulses, which are because you need seeds which are both pest resistant as well as disease resistant, right? You need irrigation facilities. Agar irrigation facilities are not available, then also the production of pulses gets affected. There is sometimes low level of mechanization. You still use the plow, you don't use the tractor, you don't use modern methods. All that leads to low production of pulses, right? Also, many of the areas depend largely on the rainfall. You don't have enough irrigation facilities. We have already discussed that in other chapters, right? So, if you experience drought at a very critical stage, jab barish ki zarurat ho, when rainfall is required and at that time it does not rain, it obviously affects the production of the pulses on that particular field. So, either you have drought or you do not have disease resistant varieties of seeds, all that impacts the production of the crop. And many farmers also what they do is to grow more of cash crops like cotton or sugarcane, right, instead of pulses, because pulses they realize that it needs a particular amount of rainfall, it needs a particular kind of soil, more importantly it needs the irrigation or rainfall, and if you don't get that it can lead to disaster. So they don't do that, or they skip it. They don't use it for soil rotation, crop rotation. They in fact go from one crop to another crop without having, they give it a crop holiday, field ko aise hi chhod dete hain, khali chhod dete hain, they don't grow anything. That's another option exercised by many farmers because they don't want to take the chance, because obviously you need to put in money to buy the seeds and every other input, and if you don't get that enough returns, it's a loss for the poor farmer. Now, as far as the distribution is concerned, India is the largest producer and consumer of pulses. Obviously, we all consume dal. 1/4 of the total production of pulses, in the sense that India accounts for 1/4 of the total production of pulses in the world. 25%, and this is as per the Food and Agricultural Organization FAO ka figures. Okay, so this is reliable, authentic figures. Always on SWS, we give you authentic data. There is no make-believe data. Pulses are 11% of the total cropped area in the country, right? And which are the main states? Madhya Pradesh contributes 32% of the total production. So central India is what is contributing the major chunk, apart from which you have Maharashtra, you have Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh. So these five, Madhya Pradesh, UP, Maharashtra, Rajasthan and Andhra Pradesh are the top 5 pulses growing states in the country. Okay, I hope as far as the distribution is concerned, it's clear. Now, let's look at one of the questions which came in ICSE 2018 board paper. Why is growing of pulses important in India? It's a repeat. It's a different way of asking the same question which we discussed right at the beginning. One, because they are leguminous plants. Remember, keyword. With a high nitrate content, keyword, and hence they help to restore soil fertility, keyword number 3, and hence they are grown as part of crop rotation, keyword number 4. Okay, they are useful in the production of oil because pulses, you know, the different kinds of oils are also produced, and the vegetarian population of India largely depends on the consumption of these pulses, these dals, and they can be grown under a diverse climate. Okay, so I hope the pulses part of this chapter, agriculture chapter, is clear. Please go and have a look at it. Later on, we will look at specific questions which can be asked from this part of the chapter after we do the entire agriculture part. See you now with yet another crop. Thank you very much.